If you're going with this option for your techniques, there's a lot of different directions that you could take this. I'm going to be showing two directions, one with watercolor and then one with pastels. But you could really use any material for this. It could be paint, acrylic paint, oil paint. But the purpose of this is to just add some color into your portraits or into the background. So think about what medium you think would work best with what you have. But watercolor is a great place to start and a great way to just add a subtle amount of color because it's transparent so that you can still see through the texture and the drawing and detail that you added. But starting with watercolor, I just painted the areas that I wanted the color to be on first with water. So I go over everything with water first so that the watercolor is going to blend. And then I wanted some of this watercolor to kind of drip down the face a little bit. So when I tilt the paper, I'll add a little bit of water and then try to bring the color down with it just to allow that color to drip and then fade into the face a little bit. And that way it can just build layers and add a little more interest with the watercolor technique. But I'm making the areas that are darker or have more shadow a little bit darker with the water or with the color. And then the areas that are lighter, I'm just using a really watered down version of the watercolor to get those highlights still visible in the portrait. So remember to leave the highlights and shadows visible so you're not losing form. So that's an important part of going over with color, is not to lose detail and not to lose form that you're working with. But I'm again just using this watercolor and tilting the page, and I'm kind of bringing the water down where I want the drips to go, and that's going to force it to follow that path. So that way I can add those drips detailed and overlapping the face in certain areas. And I'm having some come down from the chin where there's a shadow there, and then going over just small details of the face with some color as well to add just a few pops of color. When you are incorporating color, just make sure you're not doing too much. So remember the elements of art, principles of design. Think about unity so that you're tying everything together without using too much color. And then think about movement as well. Where can you move the color around to draw the viewer's eye in towards your focal point? Here's an example with pastel already on a portrait that has two different techniques, so cutout and text added. But I'm just bringing this in, thinking about color scheme. I'm using complementary colors so that purple is going to pop a little bit. And I'm just using this in the foreground, the background, and I'm not doing too much with it. So be careful not to overdo your color or take away from your portrait at the same time. So keep it simple. Think about colors that work well together, complementary colors. Still keep in mind framing the focal point and movement. So I'm using this darker pastel to go in and help to frame the focal point here. And I'm just moving that yellow around a little bit. But be creative. You could use really any medium for this, but keep it simple and unified and try your best to be creative with it.